to apply to your dog and your situation, just like it applies to everybody else's. One of the first things and the most common questions I get asked is people want to know why they should force fetch their dog. Their dog already retrieves, he brings birds to them, he probably even delivers to hand most of the time. And they just don't understand why they should have to force a dog who likes to retrieve to retrieve. This basically comes from a misunderstanding of the purpose of the force fetch. The delivery to hand is nothing more than a nice side effect of the force fetch training. The purpose of force fetch training is to gain fundamental control of your dog. When you take a retriever and you dictate how, when, where, and what he retrieves, and how he delivers it to you, you begin to take complete control of the dog. The dog starts to learn that he can play the game and that it's still fun, but that he has to play it by your rules. Force fetch is critical if you're going to play the hunt test game. One of the next questions I get asked, especially at the junior level, is when do I introduce decoys? More and more you're seeing junior and started judges in the hunt test game introduce decoys at this level. And a lot of dogs have a breakdown there. I like to introduce decoys as early as possible and make it something that the dog literally ignores. In our training yard, we have duck decoys laying out in the yard, goose decoys. We try to introduce them in a non-marking environment first, and then go out and start to place them into a marking environment. When you introduce this way, a lot of times dogs that have never seen decoys in a marking environment will totally ignore them, just not even going to pay any attention to them. One of the next questions that I get asked a lot is, what age do I start training my dog? Age is an important factor because the dog needs to be physically mature enough to handle the training and mentally and emotionally mature enough to put up with the rigors and stresses of training. Formal training generally begins between 5 and 6 months of age. By formal training, I'm talking about starting to do the obedience, starting to do the force fetch, some of those requirements where we're going to make the dog do what we want him to do. 5 to 6 months of age is about the age that most puppies start to mature enough to be able to give us what we're looking for as far as effort and understanding. Doesn't mean you can't start training earlier. Young puppies can be trained with food and play bumpers and fun bumpers and even some limited exposure to birds and have a positive effect. Training with puppies has to be very low pressure. You can't go to beat up a puppy because you damage forever their drive and desire. Drive and desire are critically important. They are there for you to use, and they're there for your benefit, and you need to shape and mold that drive and desire, not beat it out of the dog. Once you broke it, you can't put it back. How much time a day should you spend training your retriever? This is a common question, especially from people who maybe don't have a lot of time. Interestingly, most retriever trainers don't spend more than 10 minutes per session per dog. Now, they may get 2 or 3 sessions per day per dog. But if you go much beyond the 10 minutes per day, or 10 minutes per session, the dog begins to lose his ability to learn what you're teaching. Their attention span is pretty narrow, and the dog isn't capable of understanding a lot of new information at one time. A 15, 20, 30-minute session actually starts to do more damage than good. If you keep your session short and exciting, you'll get much further. This also makes it so that you can get a session in the morning before work and a session in after work if you want to. Most trainers try to get in at least 2 sessions a day. You stick to this 10-minute rule, you're going to have more success than somebody who trains for an hour or 45 minutes at a time. You're actually going to start untraining or overtraining your dog. At the junior level, you're going to start throwing marks, and I get asked a lot about whether they should have marks that are birds or marks that are bumpers. Whenever possible, you need to throw birds for your dogs. Probably the #1 failing I see at hunt tests is a dog going out at the entry level because he wouldn't pick up a bird, or because he was so excited about picking up a bird that it became a game. He wouldn't deliver, he started chewing on the bird, all kinds of problems crop up. Another thing that happens is that a dog that is exposed to birds early and often gets used to that just being the way it is. They don't get overly excited at a shot flyer. They don't get overly excited about birds being thrown in the field at a test. And so training and testing become much more similar, and you're going to have more success when that is the case. Training your young retriever is going to require an investment in your time and effort. One of the things that you need to consider is whether you're going to have people throw birds for you, or if you're going to buy a remote throwing device. The choice is yours. The nice thing about having people help you out and throw is that you've got somebody there that can help the dog if he gets into trouble. You can throw ducks, which you can't do out of a lot of the modern launchers. And you have somebody to help you and help your dog out in the field. It's not always possible to get your friends or your family members to go with you training, so investing in a throwing device may not be a bad idea. I like to count on people to get out in the field for us and throw our birds, and we've had more success with that. But if you have to, you can use remote throwing devices. What's important is that you've got some way to put birds on the ground at the distances the dog's going to see in a test.